this. So you guys are all here today because we have a fabulous event lined up with Justin and Patrice from the Leave No Trace Center. And I know we all are coming in with like different levels of what we understand. So I just wanted to do just a quick welcome and like a little administrative stuff. It looks like it's going to be a little more intimate today. So if you're not speaking, just stay on mute. And we probably will be able to allow questions with unmuting. So you can either add them to the chat if that's what you're more comfortable with, or you can unmute when the time is appropriate. We would love to see faces. So I'm glad that so many people have their cameras turned on because we will be doing an interactive Leave No Trace thing that will need cameras on. So I'm glad to see faces coming. And if you like, you can toggle between the speaker view and the gallery view. There's a little button up in the top right-hand corner that you can see either everyone all at once or just one person. And if you are on a mobile device, if you just swipe your screen over, you'll be able to see that as well. And if anybody does need closed captioning, I'm going to add this into the chat. There is a real-time closed captioning option if you go down and press more, and then that will turn on real-time closed captionings for you. And anytime, add questions to the box, and this should be about an hour. And then I did want to just pull one thing. We have been thinking about making this a little earlier to accommodate people on the East Coast. Like I see Emily right there. Thank you so much for joining. How do people feel about moving it a little earlier? Is that a yay, nay? Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we might be adjusting the time on our next month's event. So thank you so much. So I'm going to pass it to Brienne now. Oh, I never even introduced myself. I'm Jess, one of the co-founders of the Vanlife App. You might know me on Instagram as Van there. And so I'm really excited to co-host this event tonight. So Brienne.
Yeah, and I'm Brienne. I see a lot of familiar faces. So I'm Brienne. This is Lacey. We are excited to have Justin and Patrice here as an app that shares location information. We think it's really important for us to give people the tools and the knowledge they need to be able to be stewards of the environment. We don't want to have a negative impact on public lands. We want to have a positive impact on people's lives as well as the places that we're sharing. We are the only location sharing app that actually really works to give people the knowledge and to help protect our public lands. So we're very thankful for this partnership that we have with the Leave No Trace Foundation and Justin and Patrice. We're excited to have you here. We do have if any of you saw or didn't see, not sure how many dreamers we have here compared to people already on the road, but we very recently launched an awesome giveaway. It's a 7-day vacation in a storyteller overland van, which is basically a super luxurious 4x4 conversion. Everything you need. For those of you who are just joining, Jess, thank you for the reminder. We would love to see your faces. We also understand bandwidth issues, so if it's not possible, it's not possible. But yeah, I guess with no further ado, here's Justin and Patrice.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good to be here. So we are Justin Patrice Levine, and we have actually been on the road or on long trails or in the mountains since 2011. We have gone through 4 camper vans, but 2.5 years ago, we actually put our camper van in a storage unit in Brighton, Colorado, and picked up a Subaru, and we work for the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics. So now we live out of a Subaru. In normal times, we are on the road. We'll travel anywhere from Florida to California to New Jersey to Arizona, and we're providing education, outreach, and stewardship for people of all ages and teaching them about Leave No Trace and how to better take care of our planet. Now, of course, in these troubled times, we are grounded. We are not on the road, and we are doing a lot of virtual teaching, and we are actually grounded at our remote cabin in central Alaska outside of Denali National Park and Preserve. We have been here since December, and it's really kind of weird for us to not even be on the road. But we're excited to connect with all of you, and we're looking forward to a great little Leave No Trace education center session now. Yeah.
So I guess we just really want to start by hearing from you guys about your base knowledge about Leave No Trace. So, because it's a lot of people on video, we want to know, put up one finger if you've heard of Leave No Trace, and 2 fingers if you have not. Let's see for the people that are on video. Okay, great. Good mix.
Good mix.
Good mix. Great.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, most people have heard of the concepts of Leave No Trace, but many people don't know that it's an actual nonprofit. We are based in Boulder, Colorado, and we have 13 full-time staff. And then we have 3 teams on the road doing mobile education and training in schools or on public lands with different partners. Again, not this year. All of us are just working from home. So, you know, we are dedicated to teaching people to enjoy the outdoors responsibly. And we want everybody to know that Leave No Trace is for all people, but we recognize that everyone has a different and unique and personal relationship with the outdoors. And so the center really strives to be relevant to all people that do go outside. So in the spirit of Leave No Trace, we definitely want to acknowledge Indigenous people and the Native nations whose ancestral lands that we all enjoy on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So let's get into the Leave No Trace.
So with Leave No Trace, we have 7 principles. We call them principles. We don't want to call them rules. We call them guidelines. They're ways that we can better take care of the earth when we're traveling around, whether we're walking, backpacking, driving, staying in our van, and even living at home. So with these 7 principles, we have a fun interactive game to do. We have a hand game, and we want you all to participate. And this is fun because usually when we teach webinars, we can't see everyone. So we say, we hope you're doing this at home or in your van all along. So this is a follow along activity. So with our 7 principles, we have principle number 1. Everybody
hold up one finger.
One finger, everyone. Everyone hold up one finger there. So principle.
Yay for participation.
Yes, participation. We
All
can
right.
see you.
Principle number 1.
Is to plan ahead and prepare. So what you want to do is you want to think about it and write it down. Think about it and write it down.
All right. So
and you can laugh. These are all funny, goofy things, but you're going to remember some of them.
So with plan ahead and prepare, let's be honest, as van lifers, we like to go with the flow, right? So I can remember one time Justin and I were driving through Oklahoma and we were planning to park at a rest area for the evening, and we passed one. It was about 7:30 and we're like, no, we're going to keep going. We want to hit the other one that's an hour north. And we come across, like about a half hour later, there's a sign that says rest area closed ahead. We're like, surely that can't be the case. So we keep driving, we get to that rest area. Sure enough, it's closed. It's now about 8:30, it's dark. We're like, oh my goodness. So we had to keep driving. It was another hour. Luckily, it could have been worse, but it wasn't bad at all. But you know, it's just what we want people to recognize, that is when you're on the road, you should expect the unexpected, be self-sufficient, have that backup plan. So even though you might not be thinking about it and writing it down in advance, you still kind of want to be prepared to really, you know, have a different plan B.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, you ready?
Principle number 2, hold up 2 fingers.
2 fingers. All right, we are going to travel. You ready?
Walk.
Travel, walk, and camp on durable surfaces. We're
So
going to
you're
walking and
sleeping.
sleeping on durable surfaces.
All right. So if you guys are camping in an established campground, one way that you can plan ahead and prepare and travel and camp on durable surfaces is to really do the research and find out which site is going to work for your rig, for your specific needs and your specific setup. Now, if you're boondocking, one thing to think about is to make sure that you're parking in permitted areas, knowing what kind of land you're on, of course, looking for those no camping signs and private property signs. And if you are going to be boondocking and it's okay to stay there, then just thinking about, sticking to already impacted areas rather than fresh vegetation, and not creating that new camp spot.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Principle number 3.
Get up, put up 3 fingers and put them together. All right. We're going to dispose of waste properly. So we're going to make this our shovel and we're going to dig a hole. Huh. Wonder why we're digging a hole, huh? Yeah, I see some of you smiling. Dig in your hole there. All right.
So with dispose of waste properly, there's lots of things about this guideline, but we're really talking about human waste. And if you're in a self-contained van, then disposing of waste properly is fairly easy. But if you have to rely on facilities, that's where knowing where you can go helps. And, closed restrooms, that's like a common occurrence these days with services being limited. So you have to have a poop plan. That's right. So with Leave No Trace, we really recommend that you go 200 feet or 70 adult steps away from a trail, a water source, your campsite to do your business. And then when you get away from that campsite, you're digging a hole that is 6 to 8 inches deep. And that's because that's going to be proper decomposition. And if you want to be really a Leave No Trace superstar, then you are packing out your toilet paper or you're using natural items. Don't knock it till you try it. Promise them. Those smooth rocks are really awesome. And then in terms of dishwashing, because that's another thing that we all do when we're out on the road, it's kind of the same protocol, thinking about going far from your campsite and straining those food particles and then just broadcasting, like throwing that water across a broad surface so that you are leaving less of a trace.
Yeah. So,
right.
And also real quick with the poop plan there that Patrice is talking about, we always find it's beneficial, even van or backpacking or camping, to dig that hole prior to you having to go. So you know where it is. You don't have to, in the middle of the night, figure out where you're digging a hole. Just have it all ready to go. You can have your natural toilet paper laid out, your sticks and your rocks ready to go. Don't laugh until you tried it, Bree. I see you laughing.
Okay, so we are on principle number 4. Hold up 4 fingers.
Principle number 4, leave what you find. So you want to stop and look around. Stop and look around. So leave what you find. It really, we kind of relate this to the backcountry. We do relate this to leaving things in their natural environment. So leaving, flowers or leaving artifacts there, leaving antlers or anything like that. So people that come after you can see all of this. We can relate this to van life because I know Patrice and I like to do this, but foraging, if we're out there, I'm not talking foraging in the dumpsters. I know that that's okay to do. Talking about foraging out in the woods there. So when we're thinking about maybe going foraging for mushrooms or berries, you kind of want to think about where you are, what kind of land you're on. If you're on private land, ancestral land, you want to make sure that you know where you're at. You also want to make sure you know what kind of animals are out there. And we teach this a lot, that people love to pick blueberries, and we have a lot of blueberries up here, but we also have a lot of bears. So we always tell folks, if you see a lot of blueberries all over the place, sure, you can take some. But if you only see one little bush and you're in bear country, maybe save that for the bear. So thinking about, where you're at and what you're picking
impacting.
And how you're impacting that. Yeah. All right.
All right. Principle number 5. Hold up those 5 fingers. And what we want to do is make a little campfire. So make it sizzle.
So you want to minimize campfire impacts. And this is a really important topic. And we know this is a serious topic because I'm sure some of you are sitting right there in California and breathing in the smoke, or in Utah. I think there's some even in Colorado, Nevada, Wyoming. We're very fortunate that we didn't have a fire season up here, but last year fires were all over the place. So that's something we certainly need to think about. We need to think about that when we're in our vans too, to make sure you're having fires in, proper places, campfires. You're not creating campfires that they're already there. Doing it in like a campfire circle. Now, Patrice and I, we're, besides living in vans, we love backpacking, and we've backpacked on 10,000 miles all over, and we've never had a campfire in the backcountry. And there's other ways to enjoy it. You know, you can bring candles, you can bring lights, you can do things like that. So it's certainly thinking about the rules and regulations of where you're at, where you're parked, and if you can have that campfire.
Yeah, and I see that Jess just dropped a comment in that not carrying much water. Yeah, you want to preserve your water when you're living in a van. So if you're going to have a campfire, you need to have that water too to properly dispose of that campfire.
Yeah, you need to put it out. Yeah, and water we know is a commodity in our vans.
All right, so we are moving on to principle number 6. So what we want to do is hold up 3 fingers on each hand, and we are going to respect wildlife. So put some antlers up.
There we go, bob around, everybody. You got the antlers. I like it. Looking good.
So there's many different ways to respect wildlife. But for all of you, the most important thing is really thinking about properly storing all of your food, your trash, your smellables. You know, generally keeping these items in your vans works really well, but checking the area and knowing where you are. For example, in Yosemite, the bears have become accustomed to breaking into vehicles for food. So just really kind of thinking about that again and like checking where you are.
Checking, yeah. And we always have a rule. We check our space. So we're always checking our space, whether we're camping or in our van. We do a walk around, and we're just making sure that we haven't dropped anything, any crumbs or anything like that, because not just the big animals like the bears and the moose, it's the little ones that really get to us too, that get into our van, you know, those little mice that are living there.
Nightmare.
Yeah, so you really want to think about that. So they are wildlife too, even though they're pesky wildlife. All right, so principle number 7 there.
Hold up 2 fingers,
2
on one
fingers
hand.
and 5. We want to be considerate of other visitors. So we'll say peace
and wave.
Peace and wave. Yeah, so we really want to think about, you know, being considerate of other people where you're at, whether you're camping or you're staying in your van, whether you have that generator running, how long that generator is going to be running. And especially now in COVID times, we want to think about, you know, our distance and how far or how close we are to other vans. When you are going out to the bathroom or for a walk, should you bring your mask? We have a rule that we, you know, whenever we're hiking, we bring a mask with us. And when we pass someone or we're in a campground or anything like that, we're trying to wear those just out of respect for other people. So, you know, being considerate of others. Oh,
sorry.
Did we just, are we there?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought we logged off. So with those 7 principles, so we teach those a lot, and we just taught those in about 10 minutes. We usually can teach those in a couple hours. We do a 2-day session. We even do a 5-day session. So we really get into big details. And of course, that dispose of waste properly and getting rid of the poop is a really good one to teach with kids. And we're going to share later, maybe Jess will share this, that on lnt.org, you can find a lot more information about the 7 principles, as well as the next activity we're going to do.
Yeah, I'll put that. Yeah. Awesome.
So do we want to see if anyone has any
Jess, and see if there's any questions for right now.
Feel free to either write your questions in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself. Since we have a small group today, we can get some voices in.
Right. And no worries, we'll take questions too. Yeah, mount situations. Yeah. So we'll take questions too at the end. We're going to do a little fun activity, but go ahead, Bree.
Thanks.
Yeah. What do you think about rock hounding? Is that anti-leave no trace?
I think there's like always a fine line. And are you referring to like rock Karens
or rock picking?
Rock picking, collecting.
Rock picking. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things. Like we have a hard time telling small children, hey, don't collect shells, don't collect rocks, but you really need to just consider, again, the area that you're in. And if you're impacting the habitat of like a creature, I don't know how many people have picked up a rock and looked underneath, but sometimes there are things living under there that, you know, you're moving their home now. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things where there's a fine line. It's not like it's anti-leave no trace. It's just that you just really want to, again, think about your impact.
And something we'll do, and we do this a lot when we teach children's programs, is we talk about like all these wonderful rocks or all these wonderful shells that we see on the beach there. And then, you know, if you take one and then she takes one and he takes one and there might not be enough there. And it's the same deal with like the berries and foraging. You know, there is a fine line, and that's why we call these guideline suggestions. They're not rules. They're not, you can't take a rock. So, you know, it's just, it's up to you, and it's
your personal ethic too.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw another question in the chat about real talk about pooping. I love poop talk. That's my favorite thing. So what if you get to a location and the ground is too hard to dig? Well, we have solutions for you.
We do. So solutions, so you can pack it out. They make poop bags. They make wag bags. I spend a lot of time in high altitude mountains. I poop in a bucket. I'm sure some of you have rock climbed and maybe not, and pooped in a little tube. So there are ways that you can actually pack up your poop. We do it with our dog. We pick it up, you know, so why can't we do it with us? So yeah, if you can't dig the surface, which certainly is applicable in a lot of places, it'd be great to try to pack it out and take it with you.
See any other questions? And if not, maybe we'll move on.
How about compost and pee jugs, dumping of pee jugs? How do you feel about it?
So for us, for guidelines with peeing, you know, we kind of say like peeing on rocks is sort of the best way to approach it. It just, again, depends on the area you're in. If you have a pee jug, you can, you know, broadcast that pee. No, don't hit anybody with that pee. But
So instead of pouring it in one spot outside of your van and you create that big puddle right there, you know, disperse it along the vegetation out there.
Away from streams.
Away from things. Or, you know, you can certainly dump it in the toilet when you get to a toilet down the line. So it's certainly, you know, not a bad thing. But and then with compost, yeah, that's a tricky subject. We carry our food scrap in with us in our Subaru. We do in our van. And it's just, it's hard to find places that will accept that. It's also hard to find places for recycling. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, but real talk right now, we don't compost while we're in Alaska. It's just too difficult. Nobody accepts it, and we haven't figured out a way to do it ourselves. So
yeah. Cool. All right. So don't worry, we'll have more time for questions. We love, if you guys want to throw questions in there, Jess will keep an eye out. We'll keep an eye out here.
I think we're just going to, Jess, unless you need anything else right now, we're going to go right into the next activity for everybody. Trash.
All good to go.
Good to go. All right. So what we're going to do here is, this is one of a great activity that we do. It's our trash timeline. And a lot of times we're doing this trash timeline interactively in person at an amphitheater, and we're actually holding up a lot of these trash items. But this is a great way to learn about where our things go and how long it takes things to break down. So we have picked 1, 2, 3, 5 items today?
Yes.
5 items that we are going to ask you guys. We're going to do polls, and we're going to say, how long do you think it takes this item to break down, to decompose, and to turn back into dirt? And that's just, we just left it laying out. So the first one that we're going to do right there, oh, we have them all up. Okay, so the first one is, how long does it take plastic wrap to decompose? So if you all see that there, take a guess. So we'll start with that one.
And sorry, I realize now that you probably wanted them all on individual polls, but I put them all in
fine.
one.
Okay. Well, okay.
So can we, so Jess, should people just, should we go through all of them?
Should we go through all of them first?
And then we'll revisit the answers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I think that would work. Sorry, misunderstanding.
No worries. So we're going to go through all of these. So we have 5 different things there. Plastic wrap, saran wrap. Take a guess on how long it takes for that to decompose.
And so why don't you guys just kind of scroll through those polls. They each have 4 different choices, and you just take a guess on each item, how long it takes to break down. And then we'll give you, like, you know, 3-4 minutes to kind of give it some thought.
Like a minute or 2.
Well, for each item.
So yeah, you got the paper napkin. Then we've got plastic bags. So those are like our Walmart, Fred Meyer, Safeway plastic bags that we collect and have so many of. And then we got styrofoam to-go containers, or styrofoam cup, and then the elusive plastic bottle. So once you're done guessing those 5, hit submit. We have to guess 2.
Well, that's going to skew the results.
Are you guessing the ones or no? you are guessing the little ones. Okay. And then hit submit. And then so Jess, do you see the results? Okay.
Yeah, I'll launch it in just a moment. We're waiting on a couple more people.
Cool.
Maybe we'll do like 30 more seconds. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, sounds
or
good.
if you guys need more time, just shout.
Yeah, if anybody needs
or
more
any
time.
questions or anything.
It's so fun how interactive this one is.
And so I said that we picked out 5 items to do today, and then we kind of related these items to things that we use in the van a lot. We also have probably another
I think at least
10 or
like
15 items.
I'm gonna drop in the comments the link to our trash timeline game, which is a great resource if you're doing any like teaching.
Yeah.
And you can definitely like go on lnt.org and grab that information.
Cool.
All right. Okay.
All right.
So we have some of the results that have been shared here. So let's go through each item. And it looks like most people thought that plastic wrap takes 250 years to decompose.
25.
And then the second answer was 25 years. Actually, it's 25 years, which, you know what? It's better to think longer, honestly. So that is totally great. But yeah, it just takes 25 years. And plastic comes in all different varieties. And this is like flimsy. And that's why maybe it just takes 25 years compared to other plastic. But I'm going to give you some stats that will just blow your mind. So there's one study that says that the average American family goes through 24 rolls of saran wrap in a year.
Yeah.
Plastic wrap definitely can't be recycled. And, you know, we just really want to think about those alternatives. And, you know, for us, like the easiest thing is to upcycle. So, you know, Justin and I eat a lot of tortillas. And so we're reusing our tortilla bag, or we're reusing our saran wrap if we have any, but we haven't really used saran wrap in a very long time. But yeah, 25 years. If we just threw it out on the ground, it would take 25 years to decompose. So that's just way too long.
Yeah, and so a lot of times with these things, we'll talk about alternatives, and you know, upcycling, reusing other things. Another thing we use is beeswax, like a paper beeswax that we can wrap things in. Of course, we'll use Tupperwares and all of that. All right, so what do we get here? Paper napkin. How long does it take a paper napkin?
Looks like majority of people said 2 months.
Yeah.
And again, better to think longer.
It's about 2 weeks, about anywhere from like 2 to 4 weeks for a paper napkin to decompose. Now we think, well, that's not bad then. That's great. But, you know, I know what happens. We're driving around in our van and we're stopping to get our to-go, and we're like, oh, man, look at all those napkins on the counter. Yep, I'll take them all. They can live in my glove compartment. They can live in this compartment of the van. They can live here. You never know when you're going to need a napkin. And then you have all these napkins. I just saw you wipe with that napkin down there. Yep. So with napkins, though, you know, if we keep using napkin after napkin, they're going to end up in the landfill for a long time. And it actually doesn't take 2 to 4 weeks in a landfill for them to decompose. It takes a little bit longer there. So thinking about reusables. So we use cloth napkins, and we've been using these for years, and we actually carry them around with us in our van. And right now in our Subaru, they're kind of rolled up and sitting in that little, what do you call that? Like the armrest pocket right there. Sits there, and we pull it out and it's ready to go.
Now, don't judge. They actually are very dirty, and we don't do laundry a whole lot. We live in a dry cabin, so. But with paper napkins, again, yeah, somebody asked about paper towels, if that counts for paper towels. Paper is in a different variety. So you've seen some of those like compostable napkins, and then maybe paper towels are a little thicker, so they could be a little bit longer on the like 4-week side more so.
But napkins and paper towels are not recyclable.
Yeah.
They are not recyclable. You cannot recycle dirty paper towels, clean napkins. They're just not recyclable. So,
and that's kind of another reason why with the toilet paper thing, it goes the same for toilet paper, like 2 to 4 weeks for toilet paper. And so when you bury it, the 6 to 8 inches deep, that's really the proper decomposition environment for the toilet paper. But we really are, because people just aren't burying correctly and leaving their toilet paper out, we really are encouraging people to pack it out, the toilet paper. But Same thing, like how many times have you seen a toilet paper while you're out on a trail?
Yeah. Yep. Or sticking out of the hole, and then those animals are digging it up, running around with your toilet paper around your van. It's just not a fun thing.
And somebody asked about burning toilet paper. So this is just one of those things when you're thinking about being careful at fire. Burning napkins is fine, but you just need to be mindful of your fire. And so making sure that you're not starting a forest fire because you're burning your napkins.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so we're going to move on to plastic bags. And it looks like about 80% of people said 50 years. And plastic bags, again, I'm going to surprise you. It's actually only 10 to 20 years that they take to break down. Again, plastic comes in so many different varieties, and so these are flimsy. Another astonishing fact, there's one study that shows that the average American family uses 1,500 single-use plastic bags, shopping bags in a year.
Yeah.
And the other stat says that we as Americans throw away 100 billion plastic bags every year. So plastic bags, they cannot be recycled. They actually clog up the sorting machines, and the conveyor belts with the recycling facilities. Sometimes grocery stores will take them back, so that's an option. But as you're traveling on the road, that is something to think about, to have your reusable bag, because as you're going from community to community, they might have different rules. And so like different grocery stores or different towns might have a plastic bag ban. So just being prepared so that you can leave less of an impact on that community.
Cool.
All
right.
right.
So we're going to go on to number 4 there was styrofoam containers, styrofoam cups.
Oh, we got a winner.
You got a winner there. Yeah. Styrofoam actually never really decomposes. It breaks down into little particles there. Styrofoam, it would be nice if we could get rid of styrofoam. I don't think it will ever happen. Styrofoam is not recyclable. It is, recycling is a business. People think recycling is a good thing. Oh, it's a good thing to do. It's actually a business. It's a money maker. And so styrofoam is very costly to recycle. They don't recycle it in most places. Trying to avoid styrofoam is the best thing. And so one thing we say is, living on the road a lot, I know we eat out sometimes, we're getting leftovers. Well, we're always taking in our to-go containers. And, restaurants, they love that. They get a kick out of it. We use our to-go containers at food truck. We have a little tiny food truck in town here, and we've convinced them to let us bring our own containers there. So we bring our own containers or pots and stuff and have them fill it up and then bring it back home. So you can think about, bringing your own containers when you're going out and trying to avoid that styrofoam.
All right, last question was about plastic bottles, and it looks like most people thought it was 1,000 years. Guess what? It was a trick question.
Trick question. Never. Plastic bottles never decompose. Plastic bottles break down into little tiny microplastics. They end up into the water and into the soil there. So they've never really decomposed. The average American uses 167 single-use plastic bottles a year. So that's amazing.
I know,
and less than 20% of them make it to the recycling plant. Now, some people say, well, plastic's okay. It's a great thing. We can recycle it. Plastic bottles can only be recycled once. Then they're at the end of their life cycle. An end of a life cycle type of plastic thing is, the berry containers we get our strawberries or blueberries in, those clamshell containers are at the end of their life cycle. They are not recyclable. There are very few communities that recycle them. I actually think Denver might be one of them.
Yeah, Denver might be one of them.
I think Denver might be one of them. So every time we go to a new community and we're trying to teach people about recycling, we have to look at all these rules and regulations because, as I said, recycling is a business. So with all of these, we do have a lot more items on our trash timeline, things from some fishing line to
diapers.
Cigarettes to diapers. Yeah, we should have done the diapers, but we wanted to relate this to Van there. So yeah, we do diapers in front of kids. We hold up a plastic diaper, and you ready for this? A plastic diaper takes 450 years to decompose. So that means every single diaper ever made is still sitting in the landfill. I know. And then we get the really smart kids that say, but plastic diapers haven't been around for 450 years. How do you know that? Well, we do our research, and all of these things that we are talking about today are backed up on research. So Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics has their own research team. We also rely on universities and schools to do research for us. So we have try to back up all of our principles and this fun trash timeline.
Cool. Well, I think this is a good pausing for maybe some more questions. I don't see any
Questions,
on the chat
comments,
right now, but
suggestions. Yeah.
if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, feel free about
Looks
this
like
trash
Bryce.
timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bryce, go ahead.
Hey, I have another question.
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered locations that disallow digging cat holes?
That don't allow digging cat holes? Yeah.
Right.
Certainly when you go up in higher altitudes, it's just not possible. Maybe
It's
you
not
can speak
possible.
to that a little bit.
Yeah. So again, like places where the environment is not
More delicate.
More delicate. So so I'm a big climber. I do expeditions for a long time, and we're carrying out our poop. We're not burying it in the snow or dropping it into crevasses anymore. When I used to climb up here in Alaska a while back, we used to dump all of our poo in crevasses, and just last year or the year before, they decided that that's not a good thing because it's starting to push out, and we're starting to see that. So
and Jess just mentioned about the Colorado River. Yeah, river trips that's a great example of a time that they're not that you shouldn't be digging cat holes because you're usually just too close to the river when you're doing a river trip.
Yeah. And then there's some areas where, where they, I remember a place that they had a cat hole digging section. I think it was on the Appalachian Trail. I don't remember, but it was like, this is where we would prefer you to dig your cat holes so they're not all over the place in this campsite. I don't know if that was on the 18th,
minefield,
or maybe it was in New Zealand. I don't know where it was, but it was, but yeah, so you want to be conscious of that. And as you learn more about Leave No Trace, you can learn about these, these delicate areas where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't dig a hole.
And that's
there.
why it's just important to check the area that you're in, because a lot of times the land managers will put out guidance about that when you get to the signage or the trailhead. Any other questions?
Cool.
Okay. Well, let's see. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay on time,
let's
I
do
think.
a little social media.
Oh, somebody said, any recommendations on water sources for refillable containers?
Yeah, so that's a great thing. When we're talking about the plastic bottles, obviously the best thing to do is to use your reusable, refillable containers, which I'm sure a lot of us have. Every school children has it, and they go to their water refilling stations. What we used to call water fountains, they call water refilling stations now. And one of the big pushes is a lot of the national parks and our public land areas are pushing to put these water refilling stations in. Grand Teton National Park just put in 19 in the last 4 years. So up here in Denali National Park, we just put in, I think, at least a dozen different water refilling stations. So we see them in the airports a lot. We see them around. A staggering fact is that 97% of the water in the United States is drinkable. And so it's just a big misconception that people think that, the water isn't good. And we see that because a lot of countries, foreign countries and stuff, have to drink bottled water. So, and people think during the pandemic, you have to drink bottled water. So
yeah, and I think for us, and another thing is when we're going out backpacking, we do filter our water when we're out and about, and we'll check again with the area what the not restrictions, but what people say about the water in that area. So for example, like when we're hiking along the Appalachian Trail, we'll know what the water sources are like. So I think if you're out in the, if you're out in the field or you're staying somewhere where you know that there's clean water, then maybe having a filter on hand, and then you can always refill your water too.
Maybe that could
from
be
natural
like
sources.
Part of the app, like water refilling stations.
It is. Yeah. I'll just add a shameless self-promotion here because we do have water fill stations on the app. And also, I don't know if you have like a hose connect or if you have jugs, but if you do have jugs, most grocery stores like a Safeway or Vaughn's or whatever part of the country you're in have like a glacier water refill that you can just carry your own jugs in. And it's like usually around $2.50 for 5 gallons. And then you just bring your jugs in, fill them up, and bring them right back out to the van. Yeah, Walmart's too, for sure. Thanks, Hillary.
Wow, I actually didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, so like if you see one, add one or review one so that you can share that information with other travelers too, because it's always helpful, especially I know Bree and Lacey have a hose that they need to find where they can have a faucet. So that's definitely good information to share within the community here.
Yeah. Cool.
We also have recycling and compost centers. If you have any resources, I know that the first choice is always not to get like plastic or anything like that. But sometimes we don't have a choice, and if we do, we have recycle centers and stuff like that on the app. We are building out that database, so they're mostly in very populated areas or very traveled areas for van lifers, but yeah.
I love to hear that.
Well,
It's hard because when we're on the road, like Justin said, you know, we're constantly just trying to research, oh, where are we? Can we recycle? Can we compost?
Well, and one thing to think about, and we didn't put this on there, is aluminum. If you have a choice, go for aluminum. Aluminum is a forever recyclable. It can be recycled over and over and over again. So if you do have a choice, you know, and you do need to buy a bottle of water, they have aluminum
Sometimes,
bottled water, and they're trying to do that here in the national parks. Some of them that we work in are trying to get rid of the plastic bottles and just put aluminum water, and they do that up here in Denali National Park. There are no plastic bottles. It's aluminum for water.
Yeah. Fun fact: aluminum it's actually cheaper to recycle aluminum over and over again than it is to mine for the bauxite that creates the aluminum can and a new aluminum can.
Yeah. But don't leave your aluminum can out there because it takes about 80 to 100 years to break down.
And we don't want you burning it because it really doesn't burn. It doesn't like break down completely in a fire pit either.
So we could keep going on and on with these items. Sorry.
So that actually reminded me of another question that Emily kind of brought up earlier, and that is, if something does decompose, aren't there still particles of like the plastic bags or the paper bags or the aluminum that like what happens to that?
Yeah, so a lot of times, like with the plastic bottles, it just ends up in the soil, ends up into the water system. So yeah, there are always fragments of these items that are breaking down.
Yeah, and again, as we said, we can go into so many different items, but like, for example, like bananas, that's one of the items on our trash timeline. And that is something that, yeah, that's biodegradable, of course, but it actually takes up to 2 years for a banana peel, say, or an orange peel to decompose. And if you're just leaving it out in nature, you know, the animals are going after it. You're bringing, you know, if you're throwing it out your car window, they're coming closer to the roadside, and maybe they're at risk then for getting hit by a car, and it's just unsightly. So even though something might be biodegradable, you know, leaving it out, and even like the plastic bag, like you just said, Brianne, it might only take that 10 to 20 years to break down, but it's leaving behind, or it's causing problems for wildlife. It's flowing into the tree, the birds are using it for their nest, and again, it's just an unnatural item then in our natural environments.
Yeah, so that's something else. I guess we could have done that. The orange peel, the banana peels, as you're driving your van, just throw that out the window. No, 2 years, and then the animals come in the road. You just hit that elk. You don't want to do that. We know that. Jess knows that.
Too soon.
All right. So I think we are going to move on and just kind of talk through a little bit about social media guidance. And again, I know you guys said that like tagging locations, that's kind of part of Leave No Trace put out some social media guidance. The first thing I want to say is a little bit about our authority of resource. And so we teach about, we can teach like a whole lesson on authority of resource. And mainly the bottom line is it's all about how you talk to people. And so we always want Leave No Trace to be more of a conversation and not just like a talking at somebody. And you just never know where somebody else is coming from. You don't know who that person is or what their history or what their baseline knowledge might be. And so, you just really like want to think through that authority of the resource, and you're coming at maybe with some knowledge, but making it a conversation and finding an opportunity for a teachable moment. That's all we're asking, just using it as opportunity. So kind of ties into social media guidance, and again, about tagging, and we know that Leave No Trace, we've talked a lot about geotagging locations, whether or not to tag or to not tag, and really we're not against geotagging or tagging locations, but what we like to recommend is that you think about how you're being mindful of what you're portraying and what information you're giving out. Social media is a great opportunity to educate. So either just giving a general location, or if you're being more specific about that location, which we know the Vanlife app likes to do, is giving that guidance. So telling people, you know, this community has no water available, or there's no water available at this camping spot, things like that. Or if you're a social media influencer and you're showing a picture of a beautiful camp spot and you're gonna geotag that location, making sure that in your caption you're giving some really helpful information. Or if you're going to just tag very generally, that's an opportunity for somebody to reach out to you to ask questions.
Yeah.
And so you can be that educator and you can kind of give that more specific information about the areas. So I really, you know, again, we can go into more detail about that, but that's really the general messaging that we want it to convey, especially in the van life community.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to jump in real quick too, because we do share locations on the app. We do try to have community events like this where we have education as well. But if you do see a location on the app that is really dirty and in need of a cleanup, we do have a review feature where you can flag the location for a cleanup. And then the goal for this is that eventually we're going to be able to partner directly with Leave No Trace and report these campgrounds and make sure that we kind of tailor our education and cleanup efforts to these areas that you are reporting as needing help. So even sometimes it's as simple as saying hey, I had to pick up a few cigarette butts at this location, so make sure to leave it better when you leave a review on a location. But I completely agree, Patrice. I'm very hesitant to share things on social media without that balance of education, because it is so important to protect the places we call home and not just be able to smash that geo tag button and get exactly where you want without even understanding the ramifications that you might have by entering this space, or drawing more attention than it's not we don't want to gatekeep these locations, but it's really important to understand they're not made for thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to go to. And if they do end up getting this traffic, kind of like Horseshoe Bend, they'll have to implement new management protocols, and they'll have to put in new facilities and make sure that the people the volume of people who are visiting these places is managed by the appropriate ownership. So whether it's BLM or National Forest or whoever owns the land will need to manage that. So it's just something to be mindful of as we share in this viral world.
To make another point about it, social media is just so interesting how times have changed. And, back in the day, we used to rely on guidebooks and doing our research in advance. But the issue is that these days, everybody's just scrolling through and seeing beautiful places and just being I want to be there now. And so we're not developing that connection. And so I know it's sometimes boring if you're going to relay this important information. And a lot of times people have a really miniature attention span for it, but it is important.
It is important. And the Horseshoe Bend is a perfect example. The reason Horseshoe Bend is the way it is because of photos and social media. 15 years ago, there was a small trail going to it that no one would even notice off the side of the road, and now
they've had to develop and build trails and really change the infrastructure and
we were there last year, Leave No Trace as an organization. Was it last year or the year before? We did a hotspot awareness education session there for everyone, and it was unbelievable.
And so just to follow up on that, I was there 2 years ago when they were building the parking lot and gate, and I was back there again this year. And now it's you have to pay for admission. And so it's a complete park now, which means which means it's managed well for the volume of people that it's getting, but it just means that it's going to change experiences.
Exactly. And we were there 20 years ago when it was a dirt trail, and we went back last year and we didn't even recognize the place. It was crazy. And one thing we learned from there is that the messaging is wrong, because the messaging is in English. and it can't be in English. It needs to be in several different languages, because the majority of people that are going there don't speak English, and that's what the message. That's what one of the things we took out of that. Sorry, we can go on to, yeah. Cool. Well, that's kind of all we had, right?
Yeah.
That's all we had. If you want to go on lnt.org, there's a lot of information there. We could certainly share our information. If
I'm going to put our email in here.
Our email up here
if
you ever want to email us and let us have any questions. We certainly enjoy doing this. I have one question. Where is JK Kim at? Where are you?
It is a virtual background. I'm not physically in Peru. It's an Airbnb, I believe, is in Peru, called like Air Sky Pod, which looked amazing. So
okay,
you could all download this for free from Airbnb.
Oh, that's some clever marketing right there.
It's aspirational. I wish I was there or there.
We want to thank Bree and Jess for having us. We really appreciate it.
And the Vanlife App.
And the Vanlife. Thank you all. A great partner with Trace too.
We really appreciate that, and that is something we strive for. I do want to ask, while I'm giving you this thanks, that if people can just quickly do this poll. Essentially what we're wondering is, how likely are you to recommend one of our events? This really helps us in our planning and moving forward. So just hit whatever you think is appropriate if you would recommend us. And I do want to again say thank you so much, Patrice and Justin, for dialing in all the way from Alaska for this and helping to educate more people about Leave No Trace and the ways that we can kind of improve our camping and actually front range experiences. And I will leave everyone with one last thing. I know Bree mentioned this at the beginning, but we do have a giveaway going on right now for a week-long getaway in a 4x4 Sprinter camper van, sponsored by the Storyteller Overland. So if that is something you are interested, I'm going to drop the link right here. All you have to do is add your email and you'll be entered. We'll be doing an announcement on who wins that in, I think, the 26th of October. So yeah, definitely, if you are dreaming of van life, this is your moment to potentially win a pretty cool package with $500 gas card, GoPro, and trip planning by me and Bree and some of our team here. So we'll help you find all of the awesome spots to go to. So any other questions? Either, I think, did you add your emails here? Or you can just email me, which you should get an email from for this event. So we thank you all so much for being a vibrant part of our community and attending our event. And if you ever have suggestions for what another topic should be for our Meetup Mondays, please feel free to reach out on Instagram or social media or hello@thevanlifeapp.com. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.